Okay, so moments ago I just wrapped up my first impressions review after taking my Mountain Laurel Designs burn frameless backpack out on its first big section hike. So if you haven't seen that, feel free to check that out. I'll put a link in the description below. This is going to be a post-hike kind of breakdown of what I took, how I like things, what I would have changed, if anything, kind of go through everything that's in my pack. Now, as I explained in that last video, I wanted to kind of push this pack a little bit more to its upper limits. And so I have my scale here, right? And I've taken out all the consumables. So, for example, I have an S-bit stove in here. I've taken out the S-bit fuel. The water bottles are empty, no food, no insect repellent, no gum, stuff like that. So I've removed that. And this is just the weight. So let me get that fired up so you can see. Right? I've never done this before in a video. I've done several other kind of pack breakdowns, but I figured weighing it live, why not? Come on. There we go. So we have it at 4,250 grams or so. It's not the most accurate scale, but that's, in the realm of, accurate, I suppose, right? So let's get down to it. One thing that I will say that's, you'll soon see as I get into the main pocket here, that's different from, I don't just, let me go back. I don't just wear this pack on its own. I also have a satchel that I wear like around my, my shoulder, right? So I also have that as I'm hiking. I love it. It's just a little DIY thing I whipped up, and it served me great. It's getting some wear and tear now over the years, so I'm probably going to have to make something to replace it. And it's just nylon. I think in the future I'd like to use silicone nylon, but we'll see. But yeah, that's inside here. So this is the full, base weight, including everything except my phone. But everything else is in there. So I guess add another 150 grams or so, and you'll have the, complete base weight. So let's get into it, okay? So I'll do the main, you know what, now I'll do the stuff on the outside first, because then it'll be easier to, as it's flopping around empty, it'll be harder to get in here, so it'll be easier to do this first. So on the side, I won't bother to take these out. This is just, I'll take them out momentarily. So we have some water bottles. These are just recycled, number 2 plastic water bottles. If you want to jump down that rabbit hole, there's a little triangle on the bottom of plastic bottles, and what is better from what I understand is number 1 and number 2 type plastics, right? So recycled water bottles on each side. I took too much for the trip, but I like to drink a lot of water. This is up in the mountains of Sweden-Norway border-ish, central Sweden, and there's water everywhere. There's these alpine lakes or tarns, and then there's streams and rivers. There was so much water everywhere. I really could have gotten away with just 1 liter water instead of like this 1.5 liters. These are 750 milliliter bottles, but yeah, a little luxury for lots of water. Now this was a group trip, so not only was it couples like me and my wife and I, but also it was a group trip, so there were a few things that I don't normally take that push the weight up a bit. Now, so here's my ditty bag. The one thing, since I'm talking about a little extra stuff, was Leukotape. I took some Leukotape with me. I don't normally get blisters. In fact, on this trip I didn't get any blisters at all, but I took some Leukotape with me for my group. It was a group of 8 total, myself included, and I thought, it might be good to have for everybody. So there's a few people that are new-ish to backpacking, so I thought it might be good to have. It turns out not that many blister problems. There's one person who had blister problems, but they decided not to use this tape. They didn't want to use the tape. But anyway, so here's my ditty bag. Pretty standard if you're familiar with ultralight backpacking. There it is, the iconic, a toothbrush that's been cut. And then you got soap and a little flashlight, a little towel. Yeah, kind of odds and ends. Toothpaste tabs. Yeah, that's that. Now, in here I have my Anchor battery pack, plus some earbuds and cords. Over here I got some spare socks. As I've mentioned in other videos, I really like to use the Escape Light stuff sack with this because I like to keep the socks separated from the rest of my clothing so the rest of my clothing doesn't stink. And also to dry off socks. This bag is nice because it's breathable. Yeah, so spare socks. I only took 2 pairs of socks. I was thinking about doing sleep socks, but I ended up not doing it because I took a warm sleeping bag. Though there were some cold saps. More on that later when I get to the sleeping bag. Okay. Now we have a small Mora stainless steel knife. As I mentioned in my other video, I have this on the shoulder pad, kind of there, so in case I need it. I didn't really use this all that much because, it was not really necessary. Kind of a peace of mind thing, but for fire it's nice to have to process wood. But there were others who brought knives and who liked, my friend Michaela, she really likes to do fires. So before I could even blink, she had that fire going with, you know, her knife. And she had a beefier knife than I did, so yeah. Then there's, I hope you can see me alright. I have this picture frame as kind of a frame of reference here for the whole thing, but yeah. Then I got first aid kit, pretty standard stuff. I threw some extra band-aids in there because it was a group hike. I got rope. This came with my Mountain Laurel Designs poncho tarp, and I really liked it. It's slightly heavier than the cheapo nylon rope I was using before, but it's smoother, and it's nicer on branches for hanging food. But yeah, rope is good to have for other reasons. Now, almost empty. Of course, the Sea to Summit, another classic ultralight, is your either hardened aluminum or titanium. My wife has a titanium one. I have a hardened aluminum spoon, long handle, to get bags and stuff when we do eat out of bags. And that's it on the outside. I can also put, and I did, put my windbreaker in here, or snacks, or whatever else. There was still, you know, a good amount of space in here. So I really like that front pocket. Yeah, so now let's get into the, wait, one last thing. Shoulder pouch, but this is pretty straightforward. This is just the Sawyer, and this is the regular Sawyer because it has a better flow rate. I normally take the mini when I go on my own, but because we're in a group, I decided to go with the larger Sawyer to make it quicker to filter water. But at the same time, we were going to places where, you know, half the time we were drinking the water straight up because the sources were very clean. In the mountains of Sweden, when you have like springs coming out of, you know, the sides of mountains, that's as clean as you're going to get. So there's that, the bladder, the filter, and there's a little tube in there too to help facilitate the pouring. Alright, one thing I lauded this pack for was the design to get in and out. And there it is. You just put 1, 2, 3 and you're in the pack. And I also like that there's these little tabs. I didn't mention them in the last video, but yeah. I thought I might dislike this as opposed to Velcro, but I found that I like these 2 little tabs better than Velcro. So boom. And now you can see the full, look at that. Look at all that space for luxury. And believe me, I filled that up too. I put, you know, fresh fruit and chips, like, well, I think I took 2 bags of chips and, you know, lots of different, you know, luxury stuff in there as far as food goes. Lots and lots of space. You could definitely, and this is why this has gained popularity with thru hikers, like some of my favorites like Lint. You know, I saw his review on his Burn, an older model of the Burn, and that also, you know, really got me, you know, closer and closer to buying my own Burn. Yeah, but okay, let's get into it. There we go. So first thing is that satchel I told you about, and I have some things on the table here that are consumables that I normally would also have in the satchel. So you have bug spray, absolutely, it's a necessity when you're going in the summer in the fjell. Fjell, that means like, it's like alpine mountains of, you know, Scandinavia, swarming with bugs, swarming with bugs. But if you have good armor, meaning micro netting, you know, head net, which I'll get to, it's around here, and then a windbreaker, gloves, like to get fully covered, and then have this, you know, that helps a lot. And that's counted as consumable, right? So then in here too, another small consumable will be tissue paper for doing your business, and then you got your gum. I like to chew gum, and then, you know, snacks like classic Cliff Bar. You know, that'll go in the satchel, right? As I said, little wear and tear now over the years. Little, you know, this is a simple DIY project. This is a repurposed gym bag that I just kind of cut up and turned into a satchel. But okay, let's get into that first. So we have maps, gotta have maps, especially we're going to a pretty isolated part of the world. Next is I have my pouring cup for my Sawyer Squeeze filter. Sorry, I got my back towards the camera there. This is for pouring, and now inside here in this tiny cute little Cuban stuff sack is I have my micro head net. I like this because here's the thing. If I find a water source, more often than not, the water source is going to be swarmed with bugs. You know, mosquitoes will be popping out of the water and all that. Not all the time. There's some sources that are free, but you know, if I'm going to fill up on my water, I can take this out, put the head net on, take this, pour into the bladder. So that's why I like to keep it in there, right? And it also keeps it from rattling around in my satchel. So head net in a little stuff sack and pouring a little cup. The cup can also be used for other things, of course. In this silicone nylon little stuff sack I have gloves, and they're just kind of thin, I'm not sure if it's fake leather or real leather, very thin work gloves. It's good for processing wood and also wind, if it's windy, for a little bit of warmth, and also bugs, to keep the bugs off of you. Then I have my buff in there as well. And of course some small things, baggie to waterproof my phone, which was needed. There was some pouring rain that we went through. Lip balm, compass, and you know, backup mini flashlight. I've had this for years, and then a whistle. So I have 2 whistles and 2 flashlights on me, and 1 compass. Normally I have 2, like I have a backup compass, but because we're a group, there are plenty of compasses around. And then there's the satchel, so that's that. I'm tearing through here, but bear with me. Now, food bag. This is the bigger food bag I have, and this is empty, obviously. No food weight. That counts as consumable. And I took 2 on this. I took 1 because it was easier to differentiate the big food, like the meals, which went in the bigger one. And 2 because we did a lot of non-cooked breakfasts, like think like, you know, your kind of bars like Cliff Bars and flapjacks and stuff. So we had a kind of a mix of non-cook and cooked meals both. So this was more the snacks and non-cooked stuff in the smaller stuff sack. I know some ultralight people that are watching are cringing because they hate stuff sacks. I happen to, like I said in my last video, like everything real organized, so I can find everything I don't like rummaging around in my pack. Okay, so now in silicone nylon stuff sack I have my Go Light poncho tarp that has been with me for years now, which I resurrected from I brought it back from I usually keep it in my EDC, my everyday carry backpack, like to work or, you know, around town, because I'm just using it for rain gear. I used it for rain gear on the trip. It still works pretty good. After some time it does wet out a bit, but it's waterproof enough that it really did keep me quite dry. I think I do need to spray it with a waterproofer in the near future. But yeah, I guess too there's sentimental value in old pieces of gear, but the Go Light poncho tarp, super lightweight, it's like 200 grams, and then a pair of silicone nylon rain pants with the zippers on the side to vent. So there's that. I'll just chuck this on the ground. Then we have a titanium pot with S-pit stoves in there. Doing deluxe. Normally when I go out on my own I usually do non-cook in the summer. I'll take the stove out in the winter or colder seasons when I want a warm meal. The merino wool hoodie. I would put that on at times when it was colder on the trail. There were a few cold snaps, but generally I would hike in just a synthetic t-shirt and then a windbreaker, gloves and buff as needed. Mini little sit pad, right? Also can supplement with the my other sleeping pad, right? Okay, next up, in a stuff sack to keep the inside of my pack dry because this gets soggy. This is tent. This is a 2-person tent. This is the Nemo Hornet tent. very happy with this tent. It's kind of I consider it like a luxury because it's, you know, somewhat heavier. There are lighter options out there, especially if you're going Cuban, you do the Z-Packs Duplex, for example. But I got a good price on this used online, and my wife and I really, really like it. We fit in there quite well. But she's my wife, you know, so it is quite, you know, close. It is quite cozy in there, but it's quite adequate too, especially with the two vestibules, so we can each put our packs on each side. That's quite nice, and shoes too, right? So in stuff sack here, that's the tent. My wife carried the poles and the stakes and the ground cover. Alright, next up we have, in a Cuban fiber Z-Packs dry bag, we have my sleeping pad. Now I was split on which sleeping bag to take on this trip because the mountains can have pretty crazy weather. Last year, almost the same group went at around the same time of year, and it was quite warm. I took a synthetic make your own gear bag that my wife and I made, and it was enough for me. I slept fine, even a few nights too warm. It was warmer last year, so I thought I'll just take that one again. But then I started looking at the weather reports, and it was much colder this year. In fact, one night it went down to 4 degrees when we were sleeping outside, and then another night, but luckily we were sleeping in a cabin, it went down to 0 degrees. So I was very happy that I brought this. You know, as a just-in-case thing, it turned out to be perfect for this trip. This is the Z-Packs 40 degree, or that would be 5 degree centigrade hoodless sleeping bag. I've had this for years. I think I bought this back in 2013, if I remember correctly now. It's been a while, but still getting plenty of good use out of it. Still solid bag. Love it. Yeah, so there's that. I think the very first video I did on YouTube was when I did a breakdown of my 2014 gear, and that was the sleeping bag that I had in there. So still rocking it, still love it. Okay, we're almost done. It's only a few more things. There's not much in a minimal kit. Now, as I said in the last video, if you watched that this pack kind of has a quite narrow bottom, and so I had to I normally keep the sleeping bag right on the bottom, but in this case I switched things around to pack better, pack Tetris. And here's my clothing bag. In here it's just I have a down vest, Bora Gear down vest. Been using that for years now, love it. On that night where it got to 4 degrees out, I was very thankful to have that. It kept me toasty, combined with my sleeping bag. And then my silk pajamas, which I get teased for when my friends, you know, have for having my silk pajamas, but I love them. They're super lightweight, and they're nice for a little bump of warmth, but also to have something dry to put on, you know, at night, especially, you know, we got dumped on with rain on a few occasions. And then down beanie and a pillow, a big inflatable pillow. I have one that's not the lightest pillow, but I got it on sale, so it's big and comfortable. I could go lighter, but you know, sometimes, you know, you just gotta just say, good enough. Alright, so there's my clothing bag at the very bottom of the pack, and then frame of the pack. This is also something I've been using for years now. I've been very, very happy with it. This is the Nemo. So I got 2 pieces of Nemo gear. I'm normally not a brand, you know, loyalist, especially when it comes to these bigger brands. I usually support Cottage, as you can clearly see by my choices of gear, Cottage companies. But yeah, this is a great sleeping pad. This is the Nemo Zor short pad. I've had this for some time now. I've slept on it a bunch. Still hasn't popped on me. Still is, you know, keeps me warm and comfortable. For a self-inflating pad, I find that it's, you know, it's quite, you know, it's good enough at keeping me up off the like the wood of say a trail shelter, or like a kind of rocky patch. I'm impressed with it. I've tested this against my other summer go-to sleeping pad, which is the Gossamer Gear. What is it called? They don't make them anymore, but it's just kind of like a very simple inflatable, but it's thicker. What's the name of those Gossamer Gear inflatable pads? Anyway, yeah, if you're watching this, you probably know what I'm talking about. But that one is thicker with air. But I think I find this more comfortable, and I'm not really sure why. I like them both, but yeah. This one's also slightly lighter, so there's that, right? But that's it. I have my floppy frameless pack there, and that's a breakdown of all the gear I took with me to the mountains of central Sweden. Yeah, it was a great trip. I'm in the process of writing a trip report trail guide, so when I'm done with that I'll put a link below. But yeah, as always, I hope this is helpful, interesting. If you have any questions or concerns or feedback or what have you, feel free to comment below or check out my blog. I'll put a link to that too. You can comment on my blog. I have plenty of different articles up there, and I also have a Facebook page for my blog and this vlog. Yeah. Alright, I've rambled on and on about Ultra Gear now for 2 long videos that are unedited. Still keeping it minimal, still keeping it real, right? Because I don't have the time and patience or energy to, be messing around with post-production. Alright? Lo-fi. Alright? Take care, happy trails.